So if you find your sales reps are frequently getting one-leg appointments, that's not a sales rep issue, it's a scripting problem. See, most home improvement companies are unintentionally setting up their closers to fail, not because their reps are bad, but because of one simple thing, the way that the appointments are being booked on the phone. So in this video, I'll be breaking down exactly how you can fix this, providing the script structure, the phrasing, and the 2 questions that immediately stops almost every single one leg, which we've been training our clients' teams to immediately raise their close rates. So the first thing that's important to call out is that the majority of one leg appointments are created before the rep even gets in the truck. Now, across the industry, tons of companies will blame these one leg appointments on the customer, claiming that they weren't transparent about the situation or something along those lines. But in reality, it's because of the dated scripting practices that are either not digging deep enough or worse, are actually triggering resistance from your prospects. And the most common mistake that almost all reps either have written into their scripts or are saying on the phones is that they're asking if they're speaking to the decision maker, right? Now, on paper, this question makes tons of sense because, of course, if you're going to send a rep out to do a quote, in most cases, you're ideally looking to either get an agreement signed during the visit or at least have every decision maker in the room so that you have the best chance of them closing over the 24 to 48 hour period after the appointment, right? But one thing that I always hammer home on this channel is that your prospects don't buy based off of what you want, right? And even though you want to ask for the decision maker, all that phrase is doing is having the prospect put their guard up. The second that they hear the word decision maker, they think, oh, I'm about to be sold. And what happens? They shut down, they push back, and you hear them say things like, oh, we don't need both of us there, we're just looking for a quote, or I don't actually plan on making any decisions today, right? So now your rep ends up walking into a solo appointment, they can't get a real answer, and the deal falls apart. Not because the rep did anything wrong, but because of the way the appointment was booked in the first place. So if we know that asking for the decision maker triggers resistance and leads to weak appointments, then I know the natural question that you guys have is, well, what should we be saying otherwise? Well, with that being said, the fix is actually pretty simple. It's just about phrasing it in the right way that's different from conventional teachings so that you don't trigger defensiveness. So here's how we recommend approaching it. First, you want to replace the phrase, are you the decision maker, with, is there a spouse in the house? Now, this one phrase alone handles a ton of potential friction. It's casual, it's conversational, and it covers every single type of relationship, whether they're married, they're unmarried, same-sex marriages, whatever, right? And in today's day and age especially, it also avoids the mistake of saying something along the lines of, is your husband going to be there? Which often completely alienates female decision makers and just frankly sounds pretty outdated in 2025, right? Now, just saying that phrase alone won't put an end to every single one of your one-leggers by itself because some people might say, oh, no, it's just me here, right? So that's when you want to move on to the second part. And this is where you'll ask the question. Now, this one phrase alone won't put an end to every one of your one-leggers by itself because someone might say, oh, no, it's actually just me here, right? So that's when you want to move on to the second part. And this is where you'll ask the question, okay, well, is there anyone else whose opinion you value on the project around the... Ooh. So this is when we move on to the second part, where you'll ask the question, okay, is there anyone else whose opinion you value on projects around the home? See, this question is what pulls out any hidden second parties, whether it's, their grown-up child, a sibling, their neighbor, whoever they, usually consult. Now, just to be clear, I want to kind of double down on something, especially for anyone who's watching who kind of thinks that this script is, overkill. Because sometimes the homeowner isn't necessarily, actively trying to hide anything. They just genuinely believe that, they were the only person that needed to be there during the appointment. But fast forwards, a few days later, your rep walks into the house, runs a demo, and then just when things are starting to move towards the close, the homeowner says something along the lines of, okay, I just need to run this by my daughter before making a decision. Have you heard that before? Right? Just like that, one of those dreaded, what I call hidden one-legged. And it wasn't obvious during the actual setting call because your script didn't create the space for that information to come out. So that's why that second question, is there anyone else whose opinion you value on projects around the home, is so important because it picks up on what I'd call the non-obvious second party. That's going to be, the old lady's kids or the in-laws or that kind of neighbor who used to be a contractor. All of these people end up showing up after the demo, they tank the deal, and you just get left with a $15,000 cancellation notice on your desk. And it's not that the prospect was trying to waste your time, it's because you didn't dig out the full picture on that initial call. Because running a tighter script for the sake of it isn't actually being efficient. What being efficient is doing everything you can to protect your reps' time, to protect your ad spend, and to give your team a real shot of closing deals the first time around, right? Now, even with the best scripting in the world, sometimes a one leg is still going to slip through. Look, it happens. But that doesn't mean you should just kind of cancel the appointment and move on. This is where a lot of the companies drop the ball. What they'll do is they'll either cancel the call outright or they'll send their rep out anyways, knowing that that deal isn't going to close. So instead, you need to make sure that your team has a specific process in place to salvage that one leg, whether it means a quick reframe, a reschedule, or a callback with both parties. So one adjustment that we've seen work really, really well is using the following script. So what your rep will say is, hey, Mrs. Prospect, totally understand. What we found is that having everybody involved as a part of the conversation saves time, avoids any confusion, and just helps us tailor the visit to exactly what you will need. So would it make sense for us to find a time when they could join as well? Now, like any type of objection handle, it won't work every time, but at least this is a low pressure way to give yourselves a second shot at a qualified demo instead of just wasting that lead entirely. So if your reps are still walking into one-leg appointments, it's probably not a rep issue. It's actually your script. And once you fix the phrasing, shift the focus of your questions and put a system in place to handle, those few that kind of sneak through, you'll start seeing better show rates, stronger demos, and less appointments that actually die right there on the spot. You see, improving sales systems isn't always about adding complexity. Sometimes it's just a case of, removing friction for your prospects and, protecting the money that you've already spent generating leads. So with that in mind, linked below this video is our one-leg prevention script framework. This document will provide you with everything you need to understand exactly how you can stop reps from having to deal with one-leg appointments and how you can implement this framework into your company's scripting. So if you found this video valuable, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We break down what's actually working in the field right now to help home improvement teams get more out of their existing lead flow without needing to increase their ad spend.